So in this video, we're going to talk about the vector cross product, and we're going to talk about how these vectors, we're finding a vector that's perpendicular to both the components that we're crossing. Okay, that's the idea. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is this idea. Okay, if I cross I hat into I hat, well, that is also equal to j hat crossed into j hat, which is also equal to k hat crossed into k hat. And so it happens that this will equal 0. Okay, so anytime we're crossing the same vectors into each other, they're going to be equal to 0. Now, if I cross I hat into j hat, well, I'll get a positive k hat. Okay, but vice versa, if you cross j hat into I hat, I'll get a negative k hat. Okay, so I'm going to come back on this idea and you're going to see what I'm talking about. So let's do a problem here. So what if I wanted to cross 2, I'm sorry about that, this is 2, so 2, 3, 4, and I want to cross this into 5, 6, and 7. Okay, how do we go about this problem? Well, the first thing I like to do is draw kind of a little square here. Okay, and it's an x-axis and a y-axis, and you gotta remember this will be y, but since we're talking about a cross product, we usually represent this as j hat. This will be x, but since we're talking about a cross product, we represent this as I hat. And we know z or k hat will always be coming out at you, so this is k hat. Okay, and I use this as a reference area and see why. So now we're going to cross these two vectors, and you can see that it will be nothing. Actually, all we're doing is actually foiling. Okay, and you'll get the idea. So I'm going to take 2 I hat. I'm going to cross that into 5 I hat. Put my addition sign. So I'm going to have 2 I hat again. I'm going to cross that into now 6 j hat. Addition sign. 2 I hat. I'm going to cross that into now 7 k hat. Addition sign. Now I'm moving to 3 because I'm done with 2. So this becomes 3 j hat. Okay, so 3 j hat crossed into 5 I hat plus 3 j hat crossed into 6 j hat plus, okay, 3 j hat crossed into 7 k hat. Okay, now since I'm done with 3 j hat, since I'm done with j hat now, I'm gonna move on to k hat. So this becomes 4 k hat. I'm gonna cross that into 5 I hat. This becomes 4 k hat. I'm gonna cross that into 6 j hat. Okay, and this becomes 4 k hat. I'm going to cross this into 7 k hat. So if you've not gotten the pattern, let me quickly explain it. The only thing we're doing is foiling. So I'm taking 2, the first term, I'm crossing into 5, 6, and 7. Once I'm done with 2, I'm moving to 3, 5, 6, and 7. Once I'm done with 3, I'm moving to 4, 5, 6, and 7. So the only thing I'm doing is actually I'm just foiling. And so remember we said that anything that points in the same direction is 0. So 4k hat crossed into 7k hat, that's 0. Well, that's nice to know. 2 I hat crossed into 2 I hat. Well, 2 I hat crossed into 5 I hat. Well, since they're both I hat, we know that's 0. And we also know that 3 j hat crossed into 6 j hat is also 0. They're pointing in the same direction. And so if I rewrite this, what do we have? We have 2 I hat crossed into 6 j hat plus 2 I hat crossed into 7 k hat plus 3 j hat crossed into 5 I hat. Well, this is 0, so we just move on. So this is 3 j hat crossed into 7 k hat. And we have plus 4 k hat crossed into 5 I hat plus 4 k hat cross into 6 j hat. Okay, so there's the whole thing minus in the zeros. Okay, that I just rewrite. So So now it becomes very important back to why I did this, okay? So, well, now 2 I hat cross into 6 J hat. So here's my I hat. I start from I hat and I cross it into J hat. So notice I'm going in an anti-clockwise direction, which we define as positive. It's like the unit circle. And so 2 times 6, that will be 12. And since we're going I hat into J hat, we have to get a K hat. Now remember, it's positive because we're going in the anti-clockwise direction. And this is the reason why I draw this, because I wanted to show you where the signs are coming from and how. So now I'm going to put my equal sign. We're done with this. Okay. 2 I hat crossed into 7 K hat. So let's look at I hat. We're crossing into K hat. So that means that we're going to get a J hat. Well, it's going to be negative now because we're going anti-clockwise. Again, it's like the unit circle. We're going anti-clockwise. We got to attach that negative. Well, clockwise. I'm sorry about that. We got to attach that negative. And so since we're going clockwise, we got to attach that negative. So this becomes negative. Well, 2 times 7 is 14. So negative 14 J hat. Yeah, because we're going I hat crossing the K hat. That will give us a J hat. And we're going clockwise. So that is defined as negative. Okay, so we're done with that. And then we have our plus sign again. J hat crossed into I hat. So J hat crossed into I hat. Now we're going this way. So J hat crossed into I hat. Okay, so from J hat to I hat, we're going clockwise again. So that we're going clockwise. So that will be negative again. Yeah, because we're going clockwise. We're going clockwise. And so if we're going clockwise, this becomes negative. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. That's nice to know. And we just cross J hat into I hat. So that will give us a K hat. Okay, so we're done with this. We have our plus sign again. Okay, so J hat crossed into K hat. So we have J hat and we cross it into K hat. So notice we start from J hat, we're going to K hat. Well, look, we're going anti-clockwise. So that is negative. Oh, that's positive. I'm sorry about that. So that's positive. So therefore we could keep her positive. So this will be positive. What? 3 times 7, that's 21. And we say J hat crossed into K hat will give us a positive 21 I hat. Okay. So we took care of that. And we have a plus. Well, K hat crossed into I hat. So we have our K hat and we cross it into I hat. We're going to get a J hat, but what direction are we going? K hat to I hat. We're actually going anti-clockwise, you see? Anti-clockwise. So K hat into I hat, we're going anti-clockwise. So that will be 4 times 5, that's 20 K hat. 20 K into I, that's J hat. I'm sorry about that. So this will be 20 J hat. And the last one, well, 4 K hat crossing the 6 J hat. So here's K hat and we're going into J hat. So notice we're going clockwise. We're going clockwise because it's K hat into J hat. So we're going clockwise. So therefore we got to attach that negative because it's going clockwise. So that's negative. Well, 4 times 6 is 24. K hat crossing the J hat, that will give us an I hat. Okay. And now that we've pretty much have everything, we're just going to group like terms. So you could see I have a negative 24 I hat. Okay. I'm going to add that to a positive 21 I hat. Okay. Plus now we're looking at J hat. So if I look at J hat, well, actually I'm grouping. So now we're not even going to do any plus. I'm going to do my signs. I'm doing my commas. So there's one vector. Okay. So there's I hat. So now let's look at J hat. We have negative 14 J hat. Okay. And we add a plus 20 J hat, comma. Okay. And let's look at K hat. So we have a negative 15. So we have a negative 15 K hat, which is right here. And we have a positive 12 K hat. So negative 15 K hat, and we have a positive 12 K hat. So putting this all together as a vector, negative 24 minus 21. Negative 24 plus 21, we know that's a negative, so that's a negative 3 I hat. Okay. Negative 14 plus 20, that's a positive 6 j hat. Okay. Negative 15 plus 12, that's a negative 3 k hat. Okay. And so this would be the cross product. So the cross product would just be 3, 6, negative 3. Okay. So all you could see, all we're doing is just foiling.